Oh, young legion. Dang. You do not hear voices because of passions and emotions in relationship to a breaching method that knew the syntax nature of every modern country, the fact treatment nature of every modern country, would have to blame other things, others themselves, for the real causes of negative value nature progressions, acts, and natures, having been locked into a theater/S and or counters to it as fact treatment nature, as syntax nature, that then defenses of that forged and only let manifest, self-cultivated, roles with that propagated as that, entrenched here since before our founding parents were born. Those simple truths, those simple short words, native pure to our founding parents, to each victim, which is every single human body, of every identity of the ground location, tied to database locations further, tied further intersciences, intercampus locations, further, database relationships further, since before computers, further and further as identities, as integrity, criminally foreign influence, as standing criminal insidious nature, tactically and effectively, criminally legalized, standing criminal insidious natures used remotely, using the defenses of that as fact treatment nature, as syntax nature remotely, kept every position of fact treatment nature, needing to pretend theater of what is an adult, not the premises only of a nature that prevents sequence shifts, roles outside of courts, fabrication of audio and video outside of courts that were themselves victim predators, with those laws that were still entrenched against everyone, sickly, distinctly, effectively, as is actually recorded, having been used to effectively maintain everyone blaming other things other than themselves, and where and how defenses of that are simultaneously offensively to the defenses of having been that. What is actually recorded, which is what is actually science with passions and emotions actually true, and of their course/S. That is onto 5 identities of sequence/simultaneous nature simultaneously. I figured out, we're going to examine this. There are people involved on off the media locations, also involved with words like face, all words/values, but words like face, for example, words like law, words like mandated law, all phrases, obviously. See, well, the solution is to have our hospitals sue aspects of their campuses and have their lawyers sue their lawyers, aspects of their lawyers. Where and how, for example, since 1822, when Hartford, Connecticut / Wethersfield, Connecticut, North and South, still sickly were entrenched with slavery because of how it was juxtaposed with a whole bunch of identities of slavery against everyone that were bound by a method of and as an archetypal criminal enterprise. It as itself, through that, kept needing to be live progressions to right back to each identity, the ground location, subjects, values in where they are, syntax nature, fact treatment nature. Dozens of people from the Britain Superior Court, victim predators since founding, for years, involved with methods of hiding that with uses of their kids. Simultaneously, Hartford courts. Simultaneously, former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, a bunch of federal criminals before that was found out. And further, beyond what was related to the ongoing in a 2006 part of a district court case in Connecticut, /S. That came about after it was proven that there had been timely papers handed into the Ninth Circuit Court in New York, Manhattan, right before the World Trade Center attack. Sometime right before the World Trade Center attack, they had post-dated the documents to appear late and to rule as if it had been written late. Now, see, and then it was proven that someone had post-dated it from inside the courts to appear as if it had been late. But it was late. So that was proven. That led up to the 2006 district court part of the case, /S in Connecticut. That also led up to other cases that are on rolls with those people who are involved with other natures of organized crime, child abuses, elderly abuses, predicate acts, falsified police reports, rolls in other cases, criminal uses of interbranch locations, databases, the sense and sensibilities, to use Jane Austen's phrase, and note the locations like intercities tied to the on-off campuses roles, with like Harriet Beecher Stowe House, Mark Twain House, and their conjunction there on Farmington Avenue. Down the street from there is Robert Cheverry's offices. I don't know if it's still there. But that location area is also with the ones from my campuses that were involved with predicate acts with kids through a time where they're stacking, their parents and their kids are acting in collusion, and with the interbranch and foreign and collusion at the same time, and pretending passions and emotions in relationship to sequence shifts, finite, active, and progressive illusions, and identity thefts and frauds, illusions and styles and roles and uses of it and of them and of their identity ground locations from off them. But this was already on off them in ways where it already kept and keeps self-value roles with that. Where and how and say, for example, self-value, where and how people can't complain about specific. Someone says, okay, these people are involved with sequence shifts and confessions to me on Facebook, to the school over the phone. They're influenced by the police forms and by the military families also involved with criminal foreign militaries. They don't have to understand it. They could have passions, emotions, but they're fake. The reason they get away with this is because the roles with the military with identity thefts and frauds. For example, not just medical racketeering. But that is inter branches of government individually grouped in together. Methods with /S. Not just known. Not just unknown and unknown by the senators and congressmen themselves. They don't know about whatever this declassified is per them. Per that theater they present us only. And per the truths. All ways that they deny, while offensively, increasingly pretending to care about the intentions of our founding parents when they left/leave out and keep blamed on other things, others themselves, wrongly, and with delusions that which was the breaching method caused, sustained, not to exploit physical money and things like that. That complete possession over the human fact-cheating nature, each identity of sophistication, fake, pretending other, defending that. Needed to hide from the correlation nature, then they locked away innocent people. Then when they have them there, they don't let them speak about that. Bad things, vaccines. these same interbranch and hundreds of nations at once share integrity here and there that is fake together. If one country's locations, areas, and states start protracting short words that are using what is true always, while as its identity, that same identity of truth, as all exceptions, that's a different identity of truth. We have criminal insidious natures of positive and of negative self-value. And they have the, they get away with this and by people pretending to be about adults per what is new that we're going to be doing that. Because they have the identity of the ground locations. How they have the kids of the intelligence agencies needing to hide their life progressions for them. Where they were set up to need that ahead of time. And they were set up with, careers and apparent interests, like their uses of their kids, interbranch. They even bring that up through indirectly when they're talking. And on television, they were involved with wire crime methods. Method/S. To understand computers correctly, you have to understand how the letters of the English alphabet are bound, individually grouped and together, and how their identity of volume only increases as value, and where value equals nature as value / value as nature, or value as nature / nature as value, left to right, as we are, sequence first, where everything as this one identity of volume, that everything as a scientific value, that everything is at once. It is an only increasing identity of volume. It is an only increasing as value, and not equaling value as nature / nature as value. See, there's a difference, there's a quality of fact treatment nature that is required to speak about positive and about negative as science, where and how American history requires understanding how identity of the ground locations as science, as truth, wouldn't use that as lies, and or with physical delusions and styles of getting away with that because of uses of names. It's not just because people can't defend themselves because they don't have enough money to get lawyers. People can only get lawyers if they're going to counter as roles in collusion with which is actually recorded. The branches of government individually grouped in together. Victim predators, since they were kids, abused by this method that is simultaneously sickly, hurting elderly and children, and having been doing so. And as the courts in relationship to it. These were their motivations for their roles with the people interstates from Connecticut interbranch and all private tied to them, including prisons, Weathersfield interbranch and people private tied to them. Personally, I recorded involved with Sandy Hook, Newtown, names, investigations, investigators, uses of theories, and people pretending to be against theories regarding such. Recorded fake sides of correlation nature and with physical delusions, and with roles with medicines, medical crimes, other natures of organized crime with kids, not just worse than war crimes, because these are military families also involved. And again with the databases. And again with locations though. First, most sickly between Native Americans A through Z, between colonists A through Z, between the countries involved with that predicate acts method, because it was on them too, but since some ancient times. This just reminds. Since before modern religions, the sciences already had become criminally foreign influenced, tactically criminally foreign influenced. There are proofs of it, but what people refer to as proofs and get away with arguing, there's a reason people are supposed to use research for their arguments or righteous reason to teach people to use proper research for their arguments. I don't even want to use the word argument for their treatments of positive or negative. See, these are treatments that are with a sophistication that is obfuscating and worse, and making sure that no one uses all the revelations relevant to where the value of sequence true, simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously as the value of the order of the finite, the smallest thing, together. Two different distinct identities of positive and negative. Distinctly, non-distinctly, and simultaneously also with the distinct increasing identity of volume that is active. As more, where and how more and more temporary / lasting forever nature can be made, can only be temporary, positive, because it will only stay and accept that. All exceptions in exception nature are in demonstration of that. For example, science reveals that Leith of Hades, most righteously, most properly, should be referred to as forced space-nature transfer. And nature most probably and most practically should be understood as identities relationship to 5 identities of sequence / simultaneous nature, as 5 identities of invisible but still discernible and discernibly bound, distinct identities of sequence nature, distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneously by and as the same identity of value / value progression. So we have the cell nucleus, the cell body, and the cell wall manifest in demonstration of this. So we have the gases and the elements of earth, and that which is being brought with those 2 identities of sequence / simultaneous nature, where value is nature / nature is value simultaneously. I am not a doctor. I am not a police form. I am not a criminal. There are overt criminal enterprises, is the witness protection program, is the stewards of the witness protection program. Even people involved with the body dumping spot, involved with predicate acts with a whole bunch of people on off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices through time, involved with identity theft, fraud, sequence shifts, falsified police reports, roles, fabricating audio and video, wire crimes with Weatherfield Police. For example, over the last 3.5, 4 months, with officers switching and forging names and bringing in more names, therefore more family members, more people that talk with them, making up things where they use the right to lie, where they don't have the right to lie. They also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed that has something to do with their roles, with how they have foreign families, like with the countries that we have problems with, and good things, but it's always, all sides are getting hurt by what helps too. Not by accident. This is in relationship to DACA and these trade agreements. So a whole bunch of Wethersfield police through time have been forging names, switching names, involved with predicate acts in my street. There were also people with a name, Dylan, and others associated with through time with on off the corners of Highcrest Street and Hangdog Lane, where it runs into Dural Highway and the Burlington Turnpike, perpendicular to the other end of Dural Highway. And the roads off of there are with people recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with various natures of courts, judges, and prosecutors and their family members, and people associated with AT&T, It's nothing personal. ITFT, they're using all identity of the ground. They need people to pretend things are personal outside of courts and where the media has wire crimes. They need them to pretend it's personal. So CBS, please do what's right. I mean, I watched the 60 Minutes interview, and this is still that logic that is in collusion, pretending it's complicated. That and how. It's very simple. A predicate auxiliary system method and or a breaching method was involved with the syntax captivation, possession, complete possession of human fact-sheet nature. Since before our founding parents were born, and that had been entrenched and sustained to maintain no unity capable of being without being sick itself, without being incapable of defending its own reactions and defenses of sciences, tactically abridged since semi-ancient times. Since that method /S they were revealed as became tactically, criminally, and foreign influenced, to become defended and self-valued tactically, criminally, as victims, not fathoming it, as lie progressions, right back to all identity of the ground locations. Any drawn position of integrity in relationship to the evidences forbid free speech, while simultaneously still offensively. See, they have the campuses even also of each age of fact-sheet nature are involved with the complete possession of our directors, of agencies, and of our courts. And it is hundreds of nations at once. So we have to observe all the ways we have the rights to observe, where they have been using the right to lie, where they don't have the right to lie, and the extent of their roles with sequence shifts. Pretending people attack others, and pretending it's legitimate. And oh, how are you going to know I'm lying? Because they're involved with its sequence shifts. Outside of course, it's making allegations with courts. But they have to do that because otherwise they're having to lie about what is actually recorded when people tell it, which is where the overt criminal enterprise is private ones. Simultaneously, the branches of government, investigators themselves, the identities of the law themselves, needed to hide lie progressions, needed to hide finite, active, progressive lies, roles with positive and negative treatments as standing criminal insidiousness natures, as that can't afford the free speech of all that is simple. There are proofs that I'm not a lawyer. There are proofs that lawyers. There is a method /S that lawyers and that the bar itself was recorded involved with self-valued roles as shocking all aim with physical delusions. Anyone I've ever heard speak on Jim Crow laws, our founders, because of this child abuse method /S. That uses each identity of the ground campus sickly distinctly, but sickly non-distinctly too is discernible for how they've been hiding, how it is they're caught. But they're caught with other nations and they're blocking that because they already have interstates of every country, interlocations, area states, science is further, private database for further, each identity of industry. We can't count it. Everyone, the people that pretend that they're good, which is everyone, because everyone's good, and it's easy for them to do that. But no one allows it. Where and how we have so many increasing proofs of that and how there is a predicate auxiliary system method that is to the exploitation of each identity of the ground location, let alone each name. Play game. Evolution only feels like game /S. I tell it best, it does not work without the ground. I'll gather round. It does not leave out. So how computers work, They have all these temporary locations that can hold the temporary identity of relationship and the value of that, positive or negative. Binary, it's a truth that it's about zeros and ones. It is more true, and that truth is used for lies, as victim predators, and with delusions. But it is more true that binary is about, this number stands for this identity of key. The A button has a 0001, whatever represents it. It's more about identity. Even more so than about positive. Because identity is about 5 distinct, non-distinct, and simultaneous identities of positive by the one that is self-generating. And negative is in demonstration. All exceptions and exception natures were employed. Exceptions and exception nature itself is employed. Tactical ulterior from this which is true always. And from the employment by nature itself. As nature itself. Which is tactical ulterior from, so they want us to debate about positive and negative with people uncivil. That has to pretend other increasingly when they go home from wherever they go, when they have communications with people. This is also because of how it uses everyone's neighbors and everyone's extended family members involved. Again, with child abuses, elder abuses of each age sickly distinctly, effectively having kept how sickly non-distinctly from being discerned. And we're going to have to use in every country at once phrases like criminal foreign influences and like predicate acts and like identities. But we're going to have to do it watching what is fluent through our nations and always has been. So we could stand. The earth will spin for us. Everything works for us. Everything works out one way alone. It has to be led. Even logistics have to be led by this science that needs to be discerned. What is standing manifest to discern, which is prayer with regard to this. See, whatever our founding parents had to leave us to say, whatever the messengers of modern religions had to leave to be said, for everyone, for the species identity of volume, they knew already. All identity of the ground, locations, areas, and states were already influenced as victims already incapable of countering that and of defending sciences properly. No one fathomed how that is going to be being exploited. So they maintained complete possession over the people of prayer anyway. So those people will not follow mandated law, where and how they'll pretend conspiracy theories with the branches of government, where and how individually grouped in together they are crime methods, simultaneously kept needing to pretend their integrity, or be tortured, hurt, tricked, persuaded, worse, killed, worse. Hundreds of nations at once. That's the power of the syntax nature, the human fact sheet nature. dealing with money and valued nature systems, but leaving out exceptions, exception nature, preventing it, the evidence is there with that. It is evidence that self-value were criminally foreign influence database relationship roles. Self-value were just, logically, it's not who you know, it's who, it's what you know, it's who you know. Voting, pretending voting means what it doesn't. So they can keep all locations, areas, and states as breaching screens, tools, weapons, worse. People didn't fight and give themselves for litigation experts, identities of law, to pretend that Marbury versus Madison means, they're exploiting the value/value progression we are in sustained ways. So we have this self-value, and you have to have mandated law followed, because the branches of government and all the private criminal enterprises members involved personally, and the overt criminal enterprises, and the witness protection program, and its stewards, and people associated with the body dumping spot, all recorded involved, with the names brought up, with the names forging and switching with the Wethersfield town offices and Wethersfield police. And note that tied to Afghanistan and where they are now and where they used to be, the Wethersfield police. My town's police chief 1 year ago involved with people with the interbranch family members, also on and off the campuses, predicate acts rules. So what we could do is how this is involved with a Dillon family, with people with Hartford Hospital, involved with drugs, crimes, medicine crimes, on and off campuses with kids, and on my street through time. And I've been asking to report this for years, because these are also people simultaneously involved with leading up to the World Trade Center attack in that context and since. Roles with investigations, investigators, and vetting identities, and people with the intelligence community, which is individually grouped in together too. Recorded still how used remotely, still how only defenses as victim predator reactions to needs to use titles to pretend they have integrity where they don't. And they have to do it in courts because they have to hide. So they hide, what they're hiding is locations, their uses of locations before that, as that, and more, and uses of that, and uses of the premises treatments. Science never spoke for what slavery was about, and it is improper for people to pretend passions and emotions and uses of white or black or anything, any difference to keep this obfuscated, how fake science was there. That's why you have to blame the method itself, the method/S itself. It's all right to blame the discernible method and methods, but it's not all right to, prevent demonstration of uses of that too, in relationship to where and how. I asked for mandated law to be followed, and for someone to help, because the interbranch are preventing mandated law because of their roles with the locations they've been using criminally, fabricating audio and video, not just on interbranch locations, which is also recorded, not just on the locations of depositions, which is also recorded, not just with the locations where the good and bad things are taking place, where these are criminal and seditious natures of good and bad, fact-cheating natures, that illusions, identity thefts, frauds, roles, uses of people's names, where they're going to be sequentially, and in sustained ways, in the furtherance of that which is with other courts also, with yet proven but recorded, roles with sequence shifts on, off, and locations crimes. Roles with investigations, investigators, vetting identities, and of identities of the law themselves. When you have people pretending passions and emotions and uses of identities, they're leaving this out. So that's why we could have the actual healthcare and medicine aspect of the hospital sue with me. And this is where the Attorney General is going to have to do this, because the Connecticut military is involved with the people on and off with the aspects that are on and off campuses connected, roles with connected predicate acts through time and uses of them, with the campus's databases, with investigators. So there are retired and standing judges and prosecutors associated with Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, and that are involved with medicines crimes, medical crimes, and stuff like all kinds of bad things, all kinds of falsified police reports roles, identity theft, frauds roles, methods of it, with investigators with locations, with their uses of people's names already, and with the people that run the prisons, and the people that run the military, foreign and domestic, shared here and there, in relationship to these narratives about jobs and money, which is real. And increasingly, even the success and plays roles with what increases, needs to blame all other things, others themselves, the real causes of slavery, the real causes of the identity thefts and frauds of our founding parents' identity, the real cause of Marbury versus Madison, already, denied its value /value progression. Other had to be pretended. This way, you have to deal with the child abuses method, with the campuses, with the mayors, with their kids, simultaneously, distinctly, non-distinctly, with the overt criminal enterprises, with the courts and family members, and people and prisons tied to them involved with child campuses, even people on the child sex offender registry, involved with them with these wire crime roles and methods. Wethersfield police, whole bunch of them. They're involved with extortion methods, identity theft, frauds methods, where the police chief has them stack names and switch and forge names. So they have two different Officer McGee's, one at the time of 3 months after the time of my father's death. There was an Officer McGee, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with Rocky Hill Police and with forms, and people involved with federal criminals before they got caught, that were then involved with further predicate acts with them, even though they didn't get caught for the predicate acts with them, the police forms and interbranch families. These are also ones from Wethersfield involved with the predicate acts on my street through time, which is actually recorded, as ones tied to Sandy Hook, Newtown. These are also courts and police forms and medical families, even ones that tied to Adam Lanza and to his family and everyone's syntax, fact sheet, they're involved with identity theft, frauds. The doctors of Adam Lanza and his roles with dozens of people from the Institute of Living on the campus of Hartford Hospital. And then you have dozens of people's neighbors and family members. So they have hundreds of people stealing people's identities, readings of statutes, and of precedents that left out and leave out exceptions in exception nature, which is relevant to the method /S they have recorded, confessed, and demonstrated with this Debbie Gold, who pretended me to fake conversation with her by approaching me out of nowhere, yelling a couple times, and with others I don't know the names of. And so, in other words, I pretended I did something bad before that on my grammar school campus. Now, because these are also people roles further with a principal child defender and with more that were recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with that. As ones involved personally, criminally, with former director of the FBI and with Hartford courts and people associated with them and investigators that were fabricating audio and video with locations simultaneously while on and off, with roles with that on and off locations, like the Ninth Circuit Court right next to the World Trade Center right before it was hit. The same ones that were involved with this intercities in Connecticut, on and off campuses, intercities through time. It's also military associated with the running of and the policing of the apartments, intercities, that are involved with ones with foreign and domestic military, involved with predicate acts, identity thefts, frauds, falsified police reports roles, uses of that, as that rolls with that which is sustained with the same group. There's a Justice Levinskas, I don't know his wife, and their kids. They have more and more kids, then they have their kids all stacked. Prosecutors, judges, their kids, their extended family members. They have the extended family members. They have a Phil Cololo, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with police forms and with overt criminal enterprises with predicate acts on my street, and roles with these with Mendez police fabricating audio and video on and off the Wethersfield Police Department. Also with this Dillon family and with the Leahy family, regarding involved with his roles with various natures of courts and foreign people and their kids, dozens of people right there, leading up to the World Trade Center attack in it. And they have roles of predicate acts on and off with locations around the schools through time that are connected by people involved with medicines, crimes, drugs, crimes, identity theft, frauds, falsified police reports, roles, criminal uses of, and roles with the criminal uses of lawyers, where their roles fabricating audio with video with the fake sides, courts and police forms that have been preventing mandated law, and you pretending they have the right to lie as readings of statutes that are criminally foreign influenced and simultaneously delusions raw. So I'm asking for response in writing on this video that's legitimate. You know, they also have how people are with no civility and or with fake civility online, pretending it's not real and or pretending it's real for their needs, and all people involved. Everyone's broken. You have to follow mandated law. I want a response for the recorded phone crimes and wire crimes and mail crimes and falsified police reports, identity thefts and frauds that the judges and prosecutors with New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts and Middletown courts were involved with, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated through time. Also with people associated with the prisons involved with the intercampuses through time, connected names and uses of them, uses of their senses and sensibilities, which are also evidences in relationship to the extortion and the extent of it. These are boxing locations and these are educational locations that all have ties to the same house involved with the predicate acts and names, like a Cololo family that has also a Bob Chase recorded, confessed, and demonstrated, involved with prosecutors and judges, involved with predicate acts delivery system method /S they are involved with, and with physical delusions, identity theft, fraud, sequence shift roles, falsified police reports roles, rules, crimes roles. Now these are people that also had crimes with their patients and criminals with locations and on and off campuses before they got caught, including the principal child offender. And no one will put anything into writing. And I asked for another one. I responded. The Leahy family faked conversations with me about legal cases that they are involved with criminally since before those people got caught for that. And then further, leading up to and in a 2006 district court case, as people involved with predicate acts with those involved, as people involved with locations next to and on off WFSB in Rocky Hill, on off Fox Connecticut News in downtown Hartford, Fox News and CNN. I will sue that. I will sign that I won't sue you guys if you help me and the Attorney General per the FBI over the phone. Also per reasons they don't realize. And they're also incapable of being worked with since founding, not by accident, whatever equivalents were there. We have physical delusions, and we have the overt criminal methods and rules, crime methods that are defenses of that, logic of that, as that, uses as that, effectively having been kept needing to hide live aggressions after cases, needed to value how the people that run the prisons, how people that run on and off the state of Connecticut prison offices, on and off the state of Connecticut judicial branch offices, all along Route 3, like an Oliveri family. I only know them barely. Them each time, recorded a whole bunch of ways, recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with investigations, investigators, and people on and off Trinity College, on and off CCSU, on and off the Principal Child Defenders campus, like with the Joshua Julian, also involved on and off medical locations and private locations with databases, and uses of roles with that, where everyone's sequence shift predators. Everyone's bringing up topics, leaving that out. No. So, let's get a response. See Renaissance. The Wethersfield, the police replaced what is recorded over the phone with fact audio and video, also with state police and with FBI and CIA families, because how they're involved also with the military families, with identity thefts, frauds, falsified police reports roles with them, fabricating audio and video, methods of hiding that too, on and off campuses. It's in a whole bunch of ways tied to how, like, fire department campuses, EMS. There's a person named Marcello. I never had anything to do with him. He walked by me in a one time, or maybe two times, and it was just walking by in high school. They took a picture of that, because these are people. There was something about that has connections to the people that were involved with predicate acts leading up to and since the World Trade Center attack. Also with the investigators of that. Hartford Hospital is also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with military families, with the courts, dozens of people and their family members, recorded involved with sustained predicate acts and methods, intercampuses and intra-campuses, also through time. So there's a Leahy family that has little girls involved with juxtaposed natures of predicate acts, medicines crimes, medical crimes, uses of investigations, investigators to pretend to perceive things while they've been fabricating audio and video, identity theft, frauds, mail crime, wire crimes of various natures in the area through time. There's also a Joshua Stryker and Joshua Julian with Facebook involved with sequence shifts and with the judges and prosecutors that have been, and political families and lawyers and overt criminal enterprises and programs that are maybe legitimately with that such, but they're also involved with predicate with that evidence racketeering and such leading up to the World Trade Center and the Washington attack too. No, because these cases and other cases are also Washington D.C. and Manhattan World Trade Center tied to the Wethersfield Interbranch. And the people with my name in the background, and other people's names from my campus, where they have the Interbranch family members and people tied to them with the World Trade Center, and where they have involved with dozens of people from my town that I never had conversation with on CCSU, And if they try to pretend I had no conversation with Elena Davenport and Heather Hansen, they were all recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, involved with police forms and judges and courts, prosecutors, and their personally and their family members, and doctor and medicines racketeering, foreign and domestic family members, and roles that have roles with when they were abused as kids by these people a whole bunch of ways, so they could keep girls and boys where everyone's speaking through to other people, where the sequence shifts are being stacked upon, those illusions, where and how they keep the overt criminal enterprises, the private ones, the interbranch, all the people with killers, people associated with the locations next to killers. They keep each age of the human fact nature as increasingly self-valued, abridged sciences, quality of fact cheap nature, where quality is not just positive or negative. To really discern what is really positive or negative, it is a quality that is searching for that which is invisible but is still discernible. As science that does not leave out the ground, the ground's roles as a tool and demonstration of that one perfect world's increasing identity of volume, as exceptions in exception nature itself, demonstrating where and how, when we are other systems, lethal IDs is force space nature transfer. So we become temporary positive that becomes temporary / lasting positive. That is forged wishing it had been negative. Wishing it had been positive per this system, per this value system, where value is nature / nature is value. The short words are required, the freedom of speech to say what is true always, not denying acceptance, and with acceptance and demonstration the same thing, that it is native pure. And that its voice is not that which is speaking for Native Americans, because they are forced to entertain pseudo-practicality. They are forced to entertain only fathomed by everyone, including themselves, tactically denatured ground, water, value / value progression, time treatments. And for all kinds of reasons, real but juxtaposed by that one that used that to keep everyone blaming other things other than themselves, as styles used as a breaching screen for itself. That is a method / S that is exploiting the identity of the ground, value / value progression we are. So there are Corone family, a Corone family is tied to a Perron family. So and there's a Kerr family associated with religious locations, and associated with one St. Anthony's was involved as victims, where they had off-campuses investigations, and military foreign and domestic, police forms foreign and domestic, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and intercampuses connected, identity thefts and frauds roles in the past. And through time they've been using the roles with the illusions like that. So I don't know her and him. They set up 2 or 3, they set up a couple times the illusion of other. Also with people that recorded, confessed, and demonstrated and confirmed involved with predicate acts on off the 3 locations at the end of the Berlin Turnpike that are also on off the state capitol and on off downtown Hartford, which is right there where on off Fox Connecticut News, and which is involved on off Fox WFSB in Rocky Hill. That's Hartford, Connecticut, and that's right before there's like parking lots and the highways, and then the north end of Hartford, which science reveals that only fake science spoke for that location since before our founding parents were born. American history requires understanding all the revelations tied to how George Washington had to come to Wethersfield, Connecticut, Wethersfield/Hartford, right before the last battle of the Revolutionary War, to secure the French general's help. And the Revolutionary War is not the same as a revolution. No. And the science is individually grouped and together in relationship to who and what might debate that as an identity individually grouped together wherever, formally, informally, wherever. Because it is long enough. Boxing stuff. So, but boxing people, they won't. I mean, I don't know them like that. Like I couldn't, but they'll have conversations with people, but they're going to go by who they know. So they won't help me, even though the people they know are tied to the House /S that are involved with predicate acts with people already on the child defender registry. Because it is also people that are involved with forced roles with prosecutors and judges and Wethersfield police chiefs since before they moved into that house. And the one now who brought up their name through the guy who said his name was Officer Sullivan. Sound like some punk kid. These are also people who recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with criminal uses of girls' names that are students of Trinity College. They involved with predicate acts because of how they have the courts, judges, and prosecutors involved with former director of the FBI and with his lawyer and with his federal criminals and their family members personally, criminally. Leading up to the World Trade Center, leading up to that 2006 case, and leading up to other cases, and with the depositions involved. And in the depositions, one of them was asked, you didn't know that was proven? And he was saying no. Now, but these are overt criminal enterprises in the Witness Protection Program stewards. A whole bunch of ways the FBI are involved, and CIA families involved with the Clow family, recorded, confessed, and demonstrated by Wethersfield police. Also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, criminally pretending others simultaneously. Also with the other branches of government, that they're forcing the Clow family to roles with them. And with the judges and prosecutors criminally involved with them. And for a whole bunch of other foreign and domestic, including medical families, foreign and domestic, sick with kids, and with uses of identity ground locations tied. So, tell me who denies this interbranch, have them pick one name in sequence. Because when they want to debate this, they want to leave out with how they've been planting locations and their own locations with excuses that rely on also that are evidence where and how they are recorded out on and off their locations, methods of blaming other things, others themselves for predicate acts, illusions and stuff like that, wrongdoing and stuff like that they actually themselves have roles with. Since before anyone was born, this was here. Exploiting each age of fact-cheating nature. Shock and awe. Note that phrase. When I'm saying it's separate, other than how it was said as our nation, as the other nations that helped us counter, and as the nations that had to be countered, but as them were told,